Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
The first time Maris asked if someone else could stay at our lake house, she made it sound like I was a jerk for hesitating. We were standing in the kitchen, and she said it all sweet like it was nothing. Just a couple weeks, Jazz. He's got family housing trouble. She said family like it was magic, like saying that word erased logistics, privacy, and every gut instinct I had. Quick note before we jump in. Drop a comment with the city or country you're listening from. It helps us see where everyone's tuning in and plan the best time for new stories. Thanks for watching Revenge by Frank. All right, let's get started. My name's Jason Sanford. I was 36 back then, living in Rochester, working spreadsheets at a big insurance outfit where I kept things clean, calm, and accounted for. Numbers made sense. People didn't. Keuka Lake was my reset button. We had a cedar-sided place out there. 2 beds, old dock, the kind of porch you sip coffee on before the birds even think about singing. No cell towers in sight. That's what I paid for. That's silence. Who exactly is moving in? I asked. Just Theo and his boy, she said, way too fast. Maybe his wife swings by for school stuff, but not to stay. She said it like I was paranoid. I'm not. I'm cautious. That's different. Theo Morrison. I'd met him twice. Once at a charity breakfast, once at a corporate holiday thing. Vendor rep, regional director something or other. Big handshake guy. Made everyone feel like they'd known him since 2nd grade. Wore those sport jackets with elbow patches like he was on TV. I told Maris we'd talk through it, with actual dates and ground rules. She switched gears in 2 seconds, from warm to clipped. It's temporary, she said, like I was dragging my feet on donating a kidney. They're a family in a rough patch. There it was again. Family. Let's figure out a setup that keeps our space. Ours, I said. She gave me that tight smile and kissed my cheek like she'd won. Then she changed the subject to paint swatches. That was her move. Disarm, redirect, and make you feel like saying no was the cruel option. That night I drove out to Keuka by myself. It was already cold, that biting kind of fall air that sneaks under your jacket and grabs your ribs. I locked up everything, checked the sensors. Legal cameras faced the dock and the drive. I'd posted the disclosure sign in the mudroom like you're supposed to. Deer, deliveries, the usual. Nothing sneaky. You live rural, you plan for what walks up. But something felt wrong. I stood on the porch and stared out at the lake until my fingers went stiff. Loons were calling across the water, and I tried to let it settle me. Didn't work. I didn't have hard proof yet. But something about Theo's name sitting next to the words, "our place," set off every quiet alarm I had. Not the loud kind. The spreadsheet kind. When the formula looks right, but the total's still wrong. Maris had never asked to let anyone stay there before. That place was sacred to her, or so I thought. She used to call it our reset retreat. Now it was a temporary crash pad for a smooth-talking vendor and his maybe wife. I should have shut it down right there. But instead, I stared at the black water and waited for my breath to even out. Then I turned, unlocked the truck, and drove straight back to town. Next morning started like any other Tuesday. Coffee, toast, inbox full of numbers. I was halfway through a claim report when I remembered the contractor had texted about the dock measurements. He needed photos, and the fastest way to find them was in that shared iCloud album Maris made months back. House ideas, jokes, and dog photos, she'd called it. Nothing dangerous about that, until there was. I opened it, clicked through the usual pictures, paint swatches, lumber receipts, our mutt rolling in leaves, and there it was, a new album labeled Keuka Kicks. I figured maybe she'd uploaded some decorating stuff. I should have closed it after the first picture. Should have, but didn't. First photo looked fine. Our porch, sunset bleeding across the water. Then came the next. A meme about guys who label everything. Caption, "Mr. Spreadsheet strikes again." I laughed at first. I've been called worse. But the next one said, "When your husband's love language is documentation." Then a shot of my actual work binder with the caption, Jason's bedtime story. I felt my shoulders go tight. Scrolling further, I saw Theo's name under a string of comments. His profile photo, the same face I'd shaken hands with at that charity breakfast. Just a couple weeks here? Dreamy, he'd written under a selfie of himself in my kitchen. My kitchen. Maris had replied with a winky face. Not illegal, just wrong. Then came jokes about my running shoes by the door, about my quiet man energy, about labeling freezer containers with dates. It wasn't funny. It was mean. The kind of humor people use when they're building a stage and you're the clown on it. I kid you not. Reading it felt like chewing tinfoil. I tapped info on one of the photos. A grocery shot, wine and fancy cheeses, plus freezer pizzas stacked high. The attached receipt total read $186.72. Maris had tagged it split. Theo commented, "Our Thursday haul." That word "our" hit like a nail. It wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. I kept scrolling, faster this time, pulse climbing. Near the bottom I spotted something I hadn't seen before, a live photo buried deep. I pressed play. Maris and Theo sitting at my dining table, papers spread out, wine glasses half full. Her hand rested on his wrist like it belonged there. His voice came through, low. "Couple weeks, you'll barely notice." Then her laugh. "Jason never notices." I froze. For a full minute, maybe more, just staring at the screen. Everything around me went quiet. The furnace, the clock, the street outside. The kind of silence that feels like pressure in your ears. Then came the heat. Not the yelling kind. The cold, steady kind that sits in your chest and doesn't leave. That's the kind of anger I understand. I did what I always do when something doesn't add up. I made a folder, exported screenshots, dates, receipts, copied the live photo, wrote a timeline with names, timestamps, totals. I wasn't planning revenge. I just needed to be sure I wasn't seeing ghosts. Facts first, explosions later. When I finished, the clock said 11:37. I went to bed but didn't sleep. The ceiling looked like static. Around 12:41, the phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Jason?" The voice was quiet, almost cautious. "I got this number from an old vendor directory. Is this you?" "Yes," I said. "Who's calling?" "Samantha Drummond Morrison." A pause. "Theo's wife." My mouth went dry. "I see. I've heard whispers," she said. "Don't sell me a story. Show me facts." There was no crying in her voice, no tremor, just a woman braced for impact. "I have timestamps," I said. "Screenshots, receipts, nothing doctored. I can send what's clean." She exhaled once, slow. "Thank you. For Jonah's sake." "Your son?" I asked. "He's 11, she said. "He needs truth, not theater." Then she hung up. No goodbye. Just gone. I lay there afterward, phone still warm in my hand, listening to the house make those settling noises. Pipes clunking, heat kicking on, air vents whispering. The place sounded like a big empty jaw working its hinge. I got up, poured myself water, and sat at the kitchen table until the first light hit the blinds. The laptop screen glowed pale blue, and for once I didn't open a spreadsheet. I opened 2 new folders, one for Maris, one for Samantha. I labeled them clean, made sure the file names were clear. Dates, descriptions, no emotion. Then I went through each image again, slower this time, trying to see what I'd missed. Theo's comments were all friendly on the surface, but every line had that undertone, the kind of private language that starts before either party admits it's flirting. "Team wins again." "Couldn't do this without you." "Best views on the lake." It was code for intimacy, and Maris was fluent. I printed the screenshots, clipped them together, and slid them into an envelope. Evidence, not art. I'd bring it to Nadine later if I had to. She'd know how to file it clean. By the time the clock hit 7, I'd already showered, shaved, and written a note for myself on the whiteboard by the fridge. No more reacting. Start steering. That was my pivot point right there. When a calm man decides to steer, things start shifting whether anyone sees it or not. By 8 that morning, I was in Penn Yan sitting across from Nadine Cole, 62, sharp as a switchblade, and allergic to drama. She wore her usual sweater set and gold pin, and had her notary stamp already on the desk like she was expecting war. I slid the folder across. Screenshots, receipts, photo logs. She didn't blink. She scanned the pages like they were medical forms, eyes moving slow, one line at a time. When she hit the live photo, she gave one tight nod. "You'll want to change your order of play," she said. I didn't ask what she meant. She kept talking. Sell before you accuse, document before you speak, and never leave a door open you mean to close. That includes bank accounts, houses, and the kind you open with a smile. She picked up a pen and circled a date I'd scribbled in the corner. "This your next anniversary?" "Yeah." "Then move fast." I wrote down every word she said. "If your name's on the deed, you steer," she said. "If your name's on the utilities, you switch them. Don't get poetic about it. Just change the locks when you close." That afternoon, I drove straight to Canandaigua and walked into a realtor's office smelling like lemon wipes and copier toner. Karen wore black-rimmed glasses and a bun tight enough to make her eyebrows hover. I liked her immediately. She spoke in clipped sentences and had zero interest in my personal life. "We'll list this week," she said. "Photos on Thursday, staging Friday. Price point? Whatever moves it fast. Condition? Good dock, clean siding, everything disclosed." I leaned in when we got to the key rules. One condition in bold: no early occupancy, no key release before recorded closing. No exceptions. Karen raised her eyebrow. "You expecting visitors?" "I am." That was the entire conversation. We shook on it. Back at the house, Maris was in her leggings with her laptop open on the couch, flipping between mood boards and catering invoices. She looked up and asked if I could grab some extra things from the store for Theo's couple weeks. Her voice was light, like this was normal. I said I'd pick up coffee and paper towels. She smiled, pleased, then went back to her screen like nothing needed discussion. That smile made my skin crawl. It felt like moving a heavy couch by yourself while someone holds the door with their pinky. Theo texted me around 7. "Man, grateful. We'll be ghosts. 2 weeks tops." Like we were frat brothers or neighbors who traded lawn tools. I replied, "House is in play. I'll loop in the realtor on all timing." He sent back a thumbs up and 2 clapping hands. I didn't answer. Instead, I installed 2 more sensors, one for the porch and one for the driveway. All legal, all posted with HOA notice. I reprinted the disclosure form for the mudroom door and logged it with a timestamp. If anyone claimed surprise later, I had proof. Folks think doing things above board makes you soft. They forget a documented rule is sharper than a sneak attack. That night I couldn't sleep, so I clicked back into the shared album one more time. Buried deep in Maris's expense folder, she kept one for reimbursement claims and planning logs. I found a scan labeled Tuesday Run. $92.10 for lunches. $64.39 for wine for Thursday. A third line, a baby blue scarf, tagged shared with TM. I didn't recognize the scarf. I didn't need to. I took a screenshot, logged the expense to the timeline, and added it to Samantha's packet. No bold font, no commentary, just facts. Facts outlast speeches. When I told Maris the house might be showing on weekends soon, she didn't flinch. "Let's push it," she said, like this was a scheduling conflict. "We'll have guests." I stood in the entryway, arms crossed. "The sign's going up Friday. I'm not pushing anything." She didn't argue, didn't raise her voice, just nodded like we were rescheduling brunch and said, "We'll make it work." Then she kissed my cheek. That same fake warmth, that same practiced grace. Only this time, I watched her eyes. The smile didn't even come close to them. On the drive back from town later that week, I caught myself counting out loud. 1. Listing. 2. Utilities. 3. Money. 4. That last one stuck in my throat for a second. 4. The part where you say goodbye without raising your voice. Saying it helped. Numbering things makes panic stay small. Makes it feel like a project instead of a free fall. I started a second notebook. Clean cover, new tabs. Labeled everything by date and category. Anything that smelled like strategy or secrecy went into it. Not because I planned to use it, but because the people who operate in shadows don't expect you to turn the lights on and take photos. Back at the lake, I locked the side door and checked the cameras. No movement except a stray squirrel and the FedEx guy. Maris came in late from a work dinner, cheeks pink from wine, smelling like the fancy balsamic she always asked for on her salads. She tossed her shoes by the door and said, "Let's do a wine night Friday. We'll need it." I told her I had other plans. Next morning, I got in the truck with a shopping list. Upgraded security cameras, replacement lock for the lake house mailbox, and a second thermos of black coffee just because I needed something warm in my hand. I took the back way toward town, past the bend near the old boathouse. Road cracked, trees hanging low, quiet enough that you notice small things. That's when I saw her. Hatchback pulled off the shoulder, hazard lights blinking. Hood up, no other cars in sight. I slowed, checked the mirror, and pulled over 10 feet behind her. She stepped out, wiping her hands on a bandana already stained with grease. Her hair was up in a lazy knot, and she had hawk stickers plastered all over her dented steel water bottle. She didn't look panicked, just focused. "Alternator's throwing a fit," she said, voice even, no edge. "Called a tow. They're 40 minutes out. You're the first car that stopped." "Small town," I said, grabbing the thermos from my passenger seat. "We still wave at stop signs." I offered her coffee, and she didn't hesitate. We sat on the low guardrail while the wind kicked leaves across the road in bursts. She sipped and told me her name was Maven Harrow. She coordinated wildlife rehab for a nonprofit out of Branchport. "Mostly orphaned fawns and angry barred owls," she said, nodding toward her truck, "and a whole bunch of people who think raccoons make good pets." That made me laugh. First time I'd actually laughed in days, the kind that cuts loose from your chest before your brain can stop it. "I don't flirt easy," I said, meaning it more to myself than her. "Good," she said. "I don't play dumb easy either." We talked trails instead, bluff maintenance, where the spring seep made the hill slick in April, who was laying gravel near the overlook. She liked early mornings and strong coffee. I liked that she said "we" when she meant the trail crew, the way people do when they mean it. The tow truck rolled in, loud and late. She gave the driver a nod, passed the thermos back, and waved me off like we'd just shared lunch. I didn't ask for her number, didn't offer mine. Some things don't need labels right away. I drove straight to the electronics store and grabbed 2 motion cameras with night vision and time-stamped cloud sync. Posted models. Legal. If anyone wanted to accuse me of sneaking around, I had a whole page of New York State code to hand them. Back at the lake, I mounted the gear and tightened every bracket twice. My breath fogged in the cold, and my hands trembled for no reason I could name. I stood on the shoreline until they settled. The new sensors pinged twice. 1 deer, 1 UPS guy. I logged them. Routine helps. Boring keeps panic on a leash. Maris texted around 7. She sent a photo of Theo at some tasting event, grinning like a man who never hears no. His smile was all straight teeth and charm. Her message read, "He's trying." I stared at the screen, then locked it without replying. That night, I shut down all our joint streaming accounts, Hulu, Netflix, Spotify, the grocery app we'd synced for delivery. I swapped out the credit cards for new ones, shredded the old. Then I moved the household autopays to a new account in my name. I didn't send a message. I didn't ask. The quiet click of the cancel button felt like a full sentence. I set alerts on my credit profile. Email, phone, dual verification. Ran the full report. It came back clean. Next, I pulled the tags for city parking and lake access from the glove box, scanned them, checked the expiration dates, filled out the change forms for the new owner packet. Small things, but small things pile up. That's how leaks turn to floods, one unchecked drip at a time. Around midnight, I opened the laptop and typed out a message to Samantha. I have screenshots, receipts, and timestamps. I'll share privately, and only what ties directly to your marriage. No gossip, no side comments. If you want them, say when. She replied in 5 minutes flat. Tomorrow after 9, I'll bring a notebook. That was all. No small talk, no polite filler. Just two people who'd seen enough to skip the dramatics. I slept maybe 4 hours, up before sunrise again. When I took the trash out, frost curled on the edges of the bags. It crackled under my boots. The air felt like it hadn't been breathed by anyone else yet. Inside, I printed the latest photos from the shared album. Nothing obscene, but enough. Theo and Maris in the background of a prep day, too close for co-workers. Her note in the caption, Dream Team. His comment, best part of the job. I added those to Samantha's folder and checked it twice. No rage, no edits, just facts in chronological order. At 7:40, another text from Maris. Dinner Friday? Feels like we need a reconnection moment. I didn't answer that one either. Samantha met me at the diner off Route 54A at exactly 9:12. She wore dark jeans, a gray fleece, and glasses that didn't try to flatter. She ordered black coffee, no sugar, and sat down like she'd already burned the day's grace on someone else. I'm not here to cry, she said. I'm here to get durable facts. I nodded, pulled the folder from my bag, and slid it across the table without a word. She flipped it open and went quiet. Pages turned steady, album screenshots, the expense diary page, the live photo with the audio transcript, even the porch sensor logs, each one labeled with dates, times, names. She tapped her pen twice on the timestamp under the grocery receipt. Was this wine delivery regular? Thursday nights, 3 in a row. Same items each time. Maris called it their planning night. She nodded once and circled the date. She didn't ask if I was sure. She asked for specifics. She ran like Nadine. No emotion, just logic. When she got to the porch logs, she studied them hard. Same car, same arrival time. 8:12 to 9:04, 3 straight nights. Correct. Audio caught them laughing. No dialogue, just tone. She circled each entry, then leaned back in the booth. The waitress came over, topped her mug, and we both stayed quiet until she left. Anything I'm not seeing? She asked. I pulled my phone and opened another folder. Theo's been in another thread. Vendor rep named Lydia Carr. I don't know her personally, but I've got screenshots from a work event page, time-stamped 3 weeks ago. Flirty tone. He promised a quiet wine night downtown. I slid my phone across. She swiped once, twice, stopped on the third image. Theo in a blazer with Lydia beside him, shoulder touch, wine glass raised. Where was this? Downtown Rochester. Some rooftop tasting. Same week he told Maris he had a scheduling conflict. She didn't blink, just circled the date. I'll ask him first, she said. Then I'll match his story to this. If I need to subpoena later, I will. You won't need to, I said. He's got tells. She gave a small half smile and flipped the folder shut. We sat like that for a minute. No noise except the hiss of the coffee pot behind the counter and some kid dragging a chair across the tile. Then she said, Jonah's quiet, like you. Reads comics. Doesn't interrupt. But he knows when adults are acting wrong. He's mad at the noise. Not at anyone yet. I'd like to keep it that way. Good kid, I said. He's already packed his overnight bag twice and unpacked it once, just from the tension in the walls. I didn't answer that. There wasn't a good answer for it. Back at the lake that night, the new porch cameras caught another planning meetup. Maris arrived first, then Theo 10 minutes later. Same pattern. Car doors, front steps, lights flicking on. At 8:15, They were side by side on the porch, too close. At 9:04, both cars pulled out. Same as before. I clipped the footage, logged the times, and updated the timeline. That's the thing about repetition. It makes truth easier to prove. I emailed Nadine with a subject line that just said, "Drafts, trespass template." She replied in under 15 minutes, attached 2 options. One clean version for civil use, one amended with New York penal law citations for enforcement. Both ready to be handed off to new owners post-closing. "Serve it once, then call the sheriff if needed," she wrote. It stops being a request after that. At home, Maris had shifted to the soft pressure routine. Clean kitchen, easy tone. "It's just 2 weeks," she said again like a song stuck on a loop. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "They're having a housing hiccup," she added, like we were talking about a flat tire. She used hiccup for everything. That word made my teeth grind. A one-night affair was a hiccup. Emotional cheating? A hiccup. Gaslighting your husband for 3 months? Apparently just another hiccup. My patience was the only thing that kept hiccuping. I said nothing. Just nodded, smiled, and filed the moment away like the others. After she went to bed, I pulled out a storage tub from the closet and started sorting my documents. Personal papers, taxes, titles, legal files went into a fireproof bag. My grandfather's watch went into a safe deposit box the next day. The wedding album went into a padded mailer. Then I took photos of everything I planned to return to Maris. Rings, the anniversary book she never opened again after the 5th year, the ornaments her mother gave us. Anything symbolic. Anything she might try to use later for leverage. I typed a full inventory list and labeled the photos. No room for arguments when the items are already cataloged. At 11:30 that night, Maris came into the kitchen where I was loading the dishwasher. She wore my old college sweatshirt, on purpose, no doubt. She put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You're a good man, Jason." I looked at her, then at the plates, then back to the water running through the soap tray. "Thanks," I said. "Dishes need doing." She stood there for a second like she expected something back. An opening, a fight, anything. I gave her nothing. That's the thing people don't understand about quiet men. We hear the subtext. We hear every word you don't say. We just don't clap for it. When the washer beeped, I turned and said, "We're out of vinegar. I'll pick some up tomorrow." The day after I loaded the dishwasher and said nothing to Maris, we got an offer on the lake house. 9 days listed, full ask, cash offer. Lowell and Faye Beckett from Iron Deck Hoyt. He was a retired printer. She ran a craft shop out of their garage. Both mid-60s, clean manners, steady handshake. They said they wanted a porch to drink their coffee on, and a place where their grandnieces could fish off the dock without getting yelled at. That sealed it for me. At the sit-down meeting, we reviewed the terms, and I made sure I said one thing out loud, eyes on everyone in the room. No keys before recording, no soft possession. Funds clear first, the deed records, then keys. Lowell nodded slow, like a man who's been screwed once and learned the shape of the screwdriver. "That's the only way," he said. Faye added, "We're not in a rush. Just want it clean and safe." She put a soft hand on my forearm and smiled like someone who quilted for therapy and didn't scare easy. I believed her. People who work with sharp needles tend to have quiet grit. I told them there might be some confused visitors after closing, just to set expectations. Lowell chuckled. Faye leaned back and said, "We'll be fine. We've dealt with confused people before." I let that land and moved on. Nadine handled my side, sat beside me like a quiet hammer in a cardigan. She notarized everything clean, walked me through the transfer pages like she'd done it 100 times, which she had. She also signed the deconstruction letter I'd drafted for Maris. It listed everything I was returning: rings, framed photos, ornaments, the anniversary book, all of it, and a short line at the end. Returning all items tied to our marriage so there is no confusion, no poetry, just the paperwork of an ending. After the signing, I handled my list. Electric, transferred. Water, transferred. Internet, gone. I walked into the bank and changed my address, removed Maris from the joint account, and closed the credit card we opened the year we got engaged. Took maybe 15 minutes. Felt like turning off the last light in an empty house. Back home, I logged into the subscriptions: Spotify, Hulu, grocery delivery, pet food auto ship, and removed her email and payment links. No warning, no drama, just math. I filed a mail forwarding order, for me only. Then I walked into the post office and put a hold on anything addressed to Sanford household. There was no household anymore. Names matter, especially on paper. I called the homeowners association, told them the property was changing hands, gave them Lowell's name, asked them to issue new parking decals and gate tags for the Becketts. If anyone asks for access, I said, route it to the recorded owner only. The guy on the phone made a note and said, "Will do." That Friday, I stood on the porch of the lake house one last time and handed Lowell a manila folder. Inside were copies of the censor notices, the trespass warning template with blanks for dates, and my cell in case someone decided to show up acting polite and pushy at the same time. He took it, flipped through it like a man who knew paper told more truth than voices did. "We'll post the notice by the bell," he said. "No confusion." "Good," I said. "You shouldn't have to deal with other people's bad planning." We shook hands, and I walked to my truck without looking back. That night, Maris texted, "Theo's lining up the move for the 21st. Can you grab extra towels from storage?" I didn't bother engaging with that fantasy. I wrote back one sentence. "Let's talk the 20th at 6 p.m. She replied with a heart emoji and a champagne bottle. That told me everything I needed to know. Still performing. Still assuming she was in control. The next day, I pulled the key ring with her name tag from the kitchen drawer, slid it into an envelope with my letter. No insults, no sarcastic closer, just facts. Keys enclosed, closing complete, utilities transferred. This concludes my responsibilities regarding the property. I sealed it and stuck it under my glove box mat to hand over at our meeting. That weekend I wiped my laptop, cleaned out the old junk email address we'd used for furniture orders and dinner reservations, and archived every calendar entry we ever shared. Just watching those appointment slots disappear felt like unclenching a fist I didn't know I'd been making for years. I went into the streaming apps one more time and checked the login histories. Last viewed, some baking competition show and a wine documentary Theo had once name-dropped. I hit log out everywhere, then changed the passwords. That was the last shared screen in our life. I cleaned out the shared folder too, removed myself from the album, saved what I needed, deleted the rest. No digital breadcrumbs, no lingering ties. On Sunday, I stood in the garage and counted boxes. 2 were labeled Return to Maris, 1 labeled Archive, Legal, and the rest were my tools, my records, my clean break. The last thing I did that night was check the cameras. No movement, porch clear, driveway clear, lake calm. The silence felt earned. The lake looked like chrome that morning. Hard light, no wind, quiet like a held breath. Theo showed up in a leased SUV with the back loaded to the ceiling. I saw the photo later from the porch cam. Suitcases stacked, 1 guitar case, boxes labeled Jonah's Comics, and 3 plants wilted from being forgotten. Maris sat shotgun, hair pinned up, wearing the navy windbreaker I bought her 2 winters back. The collar still curled the same way. I wasn't there. That was the point. Lowell and Faye were on the porch, side by side, mugs in hand, printed trespass notices stacked on the bench between them. They told me later they rehearsed it like a church reading. No emotion, no filler, just lines that held. Theo hopped out smiling, like the SUV was full of casseroles instead of delusion. "Hey folks, we're the friends of the owners." Lowell didn't miss a beat. "We are the owners," Faye added, "and we don't do early move-ins." Theo's smile flickered. You could see the calculation begin, like he was about to pivot into charm or force, depending on what landed first. Maris stepped in, palm up, tone light. "Must be a mix-up," she said, head tilted just enough to signal innocence. "We were told—" Faye handed her the notice. "It's not a mix-up. We closed last week. If you're looking for Jason, his attorney's number is at the bottom." Theo's jaw worked, but he stayed quiet. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. My old brass one, the one I changed out the same day I signed the sale papers. He walked up, stuck it in the lock, and turned. Nothing. Tried again. The deadbolt didn't budge. The knob didn't twitch. "New cylinders," Lowell said. "New owners. Take care." They didn't raise their voices. They didn't move. They just stood there, steady, like they'd been preparing for this all month. Then Samantha's silver sedan pulled in behind the SUV. Her driving was just like her, cautious, deliberate. Jonah got out of the back seat first, hoodie up, comic bag in hand, eyes scanning the porch like he was at a museum full of things he didn't want to understand. Samantha followed. Dark coat, clipboard in hand, flat shoes, zero hesitation. She walked right up the steps and said, "Is there a legal document attached to this situation?" Faye passed her the second notice. This one had the civil trespass warning with the New York Penal Code printed under the HOA regulations. Samantha read it top to bottom, lips barely moving. When she finished, she looked up and turned to Theo and Maris. "So," she said, calm as anything, "this is how we start a couple weeks?" Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Theo looked at Maris like she was supposed to pull a miracle from thin air. Maris looked back like he was supposed to fix the mess he just delivered her to. Neither one had a backup plan. You could see the future drain right out of their faces. The little imagined life they'd built, collapsing right there on the porch in front of two retired strangers and one very observant 11-year-old. Samantha turned and called, "Back in the car, kiddo." Jonah didn't argue. He clutched his comics tighter and climbed back in the sedan without a word. Then she faced Theo. "We'll talk later. Bring your calendar and your courage." She nodded once to the Becketts. "Thank you for your time." Faye smiled gently. "Of course, dear." Theo stood there like he wanted to reclaim something. Puffing up, hands on hips, voice louder. "We've got nowhere to go tonight. We were told—" Lowell cut in, voice flat. "You've been served the notice. Next step is a call to the sheriff." Theo blinked. That shut him down. He wasn't used to a boundary that holds without an audience. The cameras caught the whole thing. The Beckett's security system saved the footage automatically. They forwarded me the clip later that night with a single line from Lowell. "All tidy." I watched it once. Saved it. Not to share. Just to keep the record clean. A boundary can be quiet and still hold. Samantha's car pulled away slow, but just before it hit the turn, she stopped and made 2 calls from the shoulder. Later, she told me one was to her HR office to secure emergency leave. The other was to her cousin to arrange school drop-offs for Jonah. No panic, just squares on the board. She moved like someone who'd been burned before and kept her bandages pre-packed. Maris called my phone 10 times in that first hour. I let them all stack. Then I sent her one message. "Meet me tomorrow, 7:30 a.m., Harbor Coffee, 15 minutes. Bring your house key. This is my notice of separation." No punctuation, no flourish. Just facts. She didn't reply. Not right away. But I knew she'd show. That kind of pride doesn't miss a stage. I turned off the porch notifications and let the cameras roll. Harbor Coffee, 7:30 sharp. I got there 10 minutes early, ordered a black drip, and picked the table by the front window where there was no way she could miss me. I didn't pace. I didn't check my phone. I just waited. I sat still and let the quiet do the work. Maris walked in at 7:31, dressed perfect for pity. Soft curls, pale cardigan, light makeup that said, sad, but strong. She spotted me, smiled like her teeth weighed something, and sat down without being asked. Before she even pulled her chair in, she started. "We can fix this," she said. It doesn't have to be ugly. I didn't answer, just reached into my satchel and placed the first folder on the table. Clean cover, label printed. Inside, an inventory list titled, Items Returned. Wedding rings, her anniversary watch, the photo frame from our first real vacation, the hand-thrown bowl from that summer art fair in Canandaigua. I attached photos. I slid the small jewelry box next to the folder. So there's no confusion later, I said. She blinked fast. Didn't touch it. Next, I set down the second folder. This one was thicker. Itemized spreadsheet. Copies of confirmations. I pointed at each section as I spoke. Joint card closed. Streaming accounts canceled. Auto pays transferred. Utilities. Electric, internet, and water. Now under the new owner's name. I removed your access where needed. Her jaw twitched. She hadn't expected the process to be this precise. I'm not your sponsor, I said. And I'm not your enemy. I'm just done. She leaned back like I'd shoved her. I get that you're angry, she started, but this doesn't have to be a demolition. We've built a life, Jason. A home. A future. No, I built the home. You made a side project out of it. She tried to soften, switched gears. The family we could still have. Don't you see it's not too late? It was just a couple weeks. It didn't even get... You pushed past every line I set, I said, calm as granite. Now the lines hold. She shifted again, tried guilt this time. Theo needed a hand. You always said we should be the kind of people who help others. I didn't bite. You didn't help him, I said. You partnered with him. She crossed her arms. You're overreacting. I'm not reacting anymore. I have facts. So does Samantha. If you need legal counsel names, I have a list. Her skin flushed. First white, then red up the neck. She didn't speak for 5 full seconds. You've really gone this far, she said. With folders, documents, like it's a contract dispute. It was a contract, I said. You broke it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I stayed seated, holding my coffee with both hands so I wouldn't drum my fingers on the table. We're separating, I said. Papers land by Friday. Don't come to the lake. Don't try the door. The owners will call the deputy. Then me. She stared like she didn't recognize the man across from her, like she thought the quiet one wouldn't know how to lock the exit. Her last play was money. You can't cut me off like that. I already did. You think I'll be fine? I know you will. You're talented. You'll land. I took a sip. But I'm not paying for the person you turned into. She sat still. No tears, just angry silence. Then she stood, picked up the first folder, left the jewelry box right where it sat. No goodbye, no apology, just stiff shoulders and fast steps out the door. I watched her cross the parking lot, straighten her jacket, and adjust the car mirror before getting in. Always performing, even when the audience has left. I sat for a minute after she pulled out, let the quiet fill the room like steam. Then I folded the second folder back into my bag, tucked the jewelry box inside, and left a 5 on the table for the server. At lunch, Samantha texted. 2 words. He denied. 5 minutes later, another ping. This time a screenshot. Theo's messages to Lydia. Same tone, same lines, just a different woman. He'd sent her a photo of a wine bar menu with a "thinking of you" caption. Samantha followed it with one line. I'll be filing. No emoji, no punctuation, just the next square on the board. That night I emailed Nadine. Subject line, serve. Her reply came back in under 10 minutes. Already out. She included the tracking number. A good notary is a kind of cavalry. I ran the bluff trail just after sunrise. Wind was sharp, but the cold felt earned. I didn't take earbuds, didn't need noise. Near the old maple, I spotted Maven coming up from the switchback, canvas bag over one shoulder, thermos in her hand. She looked like someone who belonged outside. She raised a hand. We've got a red-tailed hawk with a bad wing down near the cove, she said. You want to help carry? Yeah, I said, before I thought about it. We didn't talk much on the way down. Her boots made no sound on the frozen dirt, and I followed her pace without thinking. The crate sat tucked under a pine, zip ties holding the lid, blanket folded inside. She crouched, checked the bird's breathing, then nodded. We lifted it together, careful. No sudden moves. Wings can't take surprises. Looks like you slept, she said as we loaded it into the back of her truck. First time in a while, I said. It was true. Nothing deep about it. She unscrewed the thermos lid, poured coffee into it, and passed it over. It tasted like she'd used the good beans, the kind with bite. It tasted like a start. Back in town, Nadine had the full packet waiting at her office. Separation notice, notarized. Temporary support structure written clean. My change of address confirmations printed and stamped. City parking tags updated. HOA ID card switched. She said, "You've got one more swing at clean exits. Don't miss." I didn't plan to. I mailed Samantha a new manila envelope that afternoon. My copies of anything tied to her marriage only. Album logs, dinner receipts, and the porch timestamps. I also included 3 screenshots from a local brewery page, Theo and Lydia at the edge of a crowd, holding pints, one with his hand on her back. I added a sticky note. No surprises. Around dusk, the front camera at the lake pinged. Theo had shown up with a single gym bag and the same old brass key, the one I replaced. The footage caught him trying it 5 times, each time with more force. On the 5th try, he cursed, low and sharp, then kicked the porch step like it was the problem. Lowell opened the door, calm as always. He didn't raise his voice, just looked at him and said, "Son, it won't ever fit again." Then he closed the door. That was it. An hour later, Maris sent me a screenshot from her bank app, a red balance alert, some overdraft warning. Text said, "Did you have to go nuclear?" I replied, "No." I went adult. I nearly typed, "You started a fire. I just closed the windows." But I let that one go. No use swinging once the lights are off. Jonah emailed me from his school account the next morning. Subject: comic shops. Body: Mr. Sanford, can you send me the list of comic shops near Kuka? I like the one with the long boxes. I sent him 3 addresses. Told him the shop on Main sometimes bought trade-ins if the books were in good shape. He wrote back, "Thanks. I'll bring my list next time." A kid who says thank you without being told? He'll be just fine. That afternoon, Maven called and said, "You want to see the X-ray?" I said yes and drove over. She met me outside the rehab shed with gloves on and pulled up the image on her phone. The bone was cracked down the ulna, clean, but deep. 6 weeks, light movement, no heroics, she said. That's the protocol. I nodded. That sounds familiar. We both smiled, didn't say more. At 11:28 p.m., my phone lit up. Samantha, no drama in her voice. "Papers are printing," she said. "Jonah stays with me. Theo can schedule. I told him to bring receipts if he wants to posture about money." We sat quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, "Thank you for the facts." "Anytime," I said. "You handled it clean." I slept through the night again. Didn't wake up once. When I opened the door in the morning, the truck windshield was laced with frost, and the kitchen smelled like old coffee. I stood there, mug in hand, and didn't think about the lake. Not even once. I filed for divorce on a Tuesday, walked the papers in, didn't mail them, signed my name 3 times and handed the envelope across the counter. The clerk didn't blink, didn't ask questions. She stamped it with that dull red thud, and that was that. The pen was still warm in my hand when I stepped outside. Walking out felt like finally peeling off a weight I'd worn too long. Maris didn't make it messy. No parking lot arguments. No social media eulogies. I packed her last box, ornaments, framed photo of her dad, the copy of Gone Girl she liked to reread, and added a printed inventory and tracking slip. She sent one text back. Received. That's all it was. A line on a screen, a digital shrug. Theo didn't make noise either, not after the porch scene. Word traveled fast. The vendor's corporate office got wind of the conflict of interest and moved him sideways. New title, less power, probably fewer smiles. I didn't push it. Men like him always find new angles. I just made sure mine were covered. Samantha filed 2 days after me. She texted. He moved out. Jonah's bunk bed is officially his again. Then a photo hit my phone. Jonah smiling in front of a new comic shelf. Beside it, a tomato plant in a plastic pot on the patio. He picked them himself, she wrote. That one got me. I smiled without even noticing I was doing it. Maris and Theo turned on each other fast. No more plans, no lake house, just finger pointing. Jealous both ways. No center to hold. It always falls apart faster when the lie gets caught mid-sentence. Lowell sent me a picture one evening. The old brass key, sitting flat on a kitchen counter next to their new lock. His message just said, "Echoes." I saved it. Some folks might call it an ending. To me it was simpler. A key that no longer turned. One Saturday I met Maven at the diner. She had 2 coffees in paper cups and a story about a Fox release up near Hammondsport. We walked the canal path and didn't say a word about my marriage. Not one. She pointed out a marsh restoration sign. I told her about raccoon claims and the time a guy tried to file a damages report after leaving donuts in his boat overnight. We laughed harder than we probably should have. A month later, she came over and we made chili in my kitchen. I set out bowls. She rinsed the cilantro. After we ate, she pulled out her phone and showed me a video. The hawk from the cove, gliding in a short loop just above a meadow. "First strong glide," she said. "No limping?" "None. 6 weeks, just like the vet said." Then she rinsed the bowls and said, "Reliable is underrated." "Yeah," I said. "It is." The Becketts invited us back to the lake that next Sunday. We sat on the porch where I used to drink my morning coffee alone. Now it had better chairs, real plants, and foxglove blooming up the steps. Faye packed us a jar of peach jam and handed us 3 seed packets. "Just a thank you," she said. I changed the last of the parking stickers the week after. Shut down a couple more accounts I didn't use. Set the reminders in my phone to silent. There were no more emergency calls, no midnight banking pings, no weird app charges to chase down. The calendar was finally mine. The house stayed quiet on purpose. People keep asking what the revenge was. It wasn't fire. It was structure. It was a lock that doesn't turn. It was a man who stopped explaining himself and let the paperwork speak. And it was coffee with a woman who shows up on time, doesn't lie, and keeps gloves in her truck. I'll take that kind of ending any day. Before you head out, let me ask you this. If you discovered betrayal like Jason did, would you walk away quietly or make sure every door closed behind you? Tap the hype button. If you felt that ending hit hard, it really helps this story reach more people. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a like. It's just one click, but it means a lot. And tell me in the comments what you think. Good story, or what would you have done? Appreciate you being here.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.